What's up, Midtown Podcast? We're here. We're out here. Me, Jay. We got
What's
Sarah
up?
Badgett out here.
Hey guys.
Sarah's our guest today. Sarah, I'm glad you're here.
Thanks for having me.
So glad.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, Jay wasn't going to wear his hat today, but he is now.
I know.
He told me he would flow
I need
with
a
me.
haircut. Okay.
I need a haircut too, but the only reason I'm not wearing a hat is because you weren't going to wear your hat.
Oh, really?
But now you're wearing a hat.
You want to be like me? You just want to be different.
Dude, of course. I want to be like, I want to be you when I grow up.
Yeah. Calling me old.
With the mullet too.
Yeah.
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 I'm going to go get a mullet.
Jeez.
Please just shave your bangs off. That's it. That's all I want to see.
I'll just.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I got a razor upstairs.
There you go. Let's do it.
Oh wow.
Let's do it.
right down the middle. It's
On the
crazy.
podcast is crazy.
Yeah. I'm kidding.
Y'all, we have a cool episode today. We've had a few people submit topics that they want us to talk about.
Yeah.
And we kind of want to start talking about those. And today we're Bethany sent the first request.
Shout out.
And shout out Bethany. And I'm going to read the request out loud from what she said so I don't butcher it and mess it up. Bethany's topic is, how do we navigate changes in the midst of the season you were in / finding a sense of home?
Yeah. Gosh, I understand that. I like.
Me too, man.
Yeah.
Change is inevitable.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think finding a sense of home in change seems impossible most of the time.
Yeah. It seems super challenging. Have you ever dealt with really challenged of change?
Yeah, dude. Yes. I think I look at my life and I think I've come to a place, this is the most consistent and steady that I think my life has ever been. But I still it's weird when my whole life isn't changing every few months.
Mm-hmm.
I'm used to that. I feel like most of my life it's been my friend group or my job or just what I'm doing with my life. Something happens to where I have to make a huge shift in my life. I think the ones that I think of right off the bat is having close relationships with people, having friend groups, but then something happening to where you have to transition away from that.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have those people in your life anymore, and you're not doing the things that you used to do anymore.
That's
Like
real.
moving?
More so, I think it was harder when it wasn't even that. It was just things would happen to where we just life. Like they would go off to school or they would move or whatever it might be. Just we came from hanging out almost every day to I haven't seen you in a year now, you know? And I think change.
Was that overnight or was that gradual?
A lot of times it's been overnight.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Really?
And a lot of times I don't even know why.
Really?
Honestly. But I just got to a point where I believed, and I think the enemy fed a lot of lies with that, but I just believed that be careful who you get close to, you know, because they're going to leave real quick, or you're going to have something come up to where you're going to have to step away real quick. So don't get too attached.
And so sometimes a sense of home can feel safer on the move than stable and steady and present.
Yeah.
It's a real thing. Yeah, man. I think for me that the biggest disappointment was I'm 37 now. So I guess if I go back earlier, my greatest disappointment in having a sense of home was you get a girlfriend that you really like, you know, and you think that is going to be, it's home, you know, this is a home run. It's just,
this
is
is
the
it.
one.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work out. And it's this great disappointment that is literally earth shattering.
Yeah.
And then I think for me was getting to a place where I had this dream and vision of my life, getting there only to find that it didn't stay where I thought it was going to be, but I achieved it.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of pain and deep sense of loss that I experienced in my late 20s of just getting to where I thought I would be and then not being there all of a sudden. And what is life at that point?
Yeah.
And, you know, I've talked to a bunch of guys, you know, specifically guys. I've talked to a bunch of, I would say, let's go professional athletes. I just have some connection here. And you get to the place where your life starts out in like this little league ball, and you progress through your life getting all this applause, and the image in your mind of the greatest success is the highest level of sport.
Yeah.
And then you get to the highest level of sport, and then all of a sudden it's over, whether you lose a contract or you get hurt, and you're all of a sudden your greatest safety was this big win and your big achievement and all of your trophies, and now you are instantly not there. So you have this existential crisis of like, who am I and what am I? Because my whole life was built on achieving and reaching this sense of like trophy life, and I got it, and now I lost it. I don't even know who I am. What is home? Who am I? And so all like, I think even like this deep sense of the pain through change that we didn't expect can create an existential crisis in our life, to where we're like, I don't even know who I am, because I built the whole thing on something that wasn't steady and solid.
Yeah, that's good.
And I think we all understand some aspect of that, and we've all done that and been there and lived it a little bit.
I relate to that a lot. I think what you said, like, there's been so many points in my life where the safety was in the thing that I hadn't even gotten to yet. That probably was a little unrealistic, you know, but I just relate to that. And I think it leads to me. I lived without a sense of home for a very long time. And I think that in and of itself is very unhealthy. Very unhealthy.
Or you've got this image of somebody who is, that you perceive as like, oh, they've got it together. Yeah. They're home within themselves. They're safe.
Yeah.
And so like you have this image of somebody that you're not, that you're always achieving to be.
That's good.
And that can create that disappointment when you get to where they are, only to find that that's not where it was either. You know, we've all experienced like this kind of thing. And so I think maybe as I start this conversation, it's like, I think we can be encouraged. Yeah. You're not alone.
Yeah.
At all in this experience.
Yeah.
It's okay.
I grew up going to the same school my whole life. So kindergarten to senior year, I was in the same spot. It was a really small school, so I knew everyone. And obviously, when you're in school, the goal is to graduate. So for forever, I was waiting to be a senior. And then it happened, and it was great. And then I graduated.
You're like, no.
And I was like, now what? You know, like I've worked 13 years to get here, and now it's done.
Yeah.
And then I went to Pellissippi, and didn't have any. I was like, my friends, my teachers, my school, like it was the same campus the whole time. So like I was familiar with the literal grounds of home. I spent more time at school than I did my actual house, and I spent more time with those people and developed really, really deep relationship. That was like my first glimpse into rich community. And then I graduated after having poured out my whole life to this school for 13 years, and then I had nothing. I didn't know how to make friends because I'd been at the same place the whole time. And then I was the new person, and I was like, do I know how to talk to people? Like, do I know? And I remember my fall semester of college, I was a wreck. I was like, I don't know how to make friends. I can't see my old friends. They're all in school. They're all doing this. I can't be a part of it. I graduated. I'm supposed to move on. But this is where I've lived my whole life. Like, what do I do now? So that's real.
I just to even build on this, like, really this is kind of built in culture and like just the human race, but you end up like going, let's take that for first, you go through school, and this is like the big milestone. Like home is this moment of pinnacle of graduation. You graduate and you're like, I guess college now, maybe, or job, pick it. And then it's like, we're graduating college, pinnacle, or we get the job, pinnacle. Then should we get a spouse, a family? Get the family, get the wife, pinnacle. And you find like what the stats actually show is the greatest number of divorces actually happen once the kids grow up, because the next pinnacle is like, so my kids get old enough to leave my house, And then now, guess what? I'm stuck with this person that I don't even know. And maybe the next pinnacle would be not to be with you, but with someone else. And you go on and you keep going to the next pinnacle, to the next pinnacle, to the end. And you're like, what did I do? But yet go from desiring home to desiring a home to desiring the next home, only to find that it wasn't here.
That's crazy. That's really sad.
Yeah. But that's the existence of like the human race can really be summed at this like pursuit of home.
Yeah.
And it is a constant pursuit. And I believe that like what we believe in accordance with this word, there's so many answers in this book about where our real home can be found. And it's by the grace of God that he showed it to us, and it's a blessing in our life. And maybe we can talk about some of that today.
That leads into like, I had a question when Sarah was speaking, like, what is home?
Yeah.
We talk about this sense of home. What is that? Like, I think I just go back to creation. Like, we were created in his image. So what even is the sense of home? I believe it's stability and familiar in a way that we crave, that I don't think we often realize we crave. But if that is what home is, if he is home, we were created in the specific way. It's the garden. Yeah. The garden's home. Yeah. And we aren't there. So the closest thing we can get to home is the spirit that he promises us.
Read that first part of Corinthians real quick, because it kind of helps us understand what the Bible teaches about home and like who we are and what's actually going on. Just read that first part.
Absolutely. 2 Corinthians 5, everybody. For we know that if the tent that is our earthly home is destroyed, we have a building from God, a house not made with hands, but eternal in the heavens. For in this tent we groan, longing to put on our spiritual dwelling, if indeed, by putting it on, we may not be found naked. For while we are still in this tent we groan, being burdened, not that we would be unclothed, but that we would be further clothed, so that what is mortal may be swallowed up by life.
Yeah.
He who has prepared us for this very thing is God, who has given us the Spirit as a guarantee. So, we are always of good courage.
So powerful. So it tells us that we all have this sense of desire, groaning for a home that like lasts. But it's telling us this tent that you live in. What is it, like this tent? So I'm looking at my physical body, and I can almost adopt this as this is my real home. But that Bible tells us that this thing is actually a tent, and it isn't my home. In fact, there's an eternal being within this tent. This is who I really am on the inside. But this thing, man, this isn't me. And this stuff that we see isn't forever. So it points us to this like eternal reality that we're made to exist in and understand.
Yeah. Read that. Can you read that part about clothes again?
For while we are still in this tent, we groan, being burdened, not that we would be unclothed, but that we would be further clothed, so that what is mortal may be swallowed up by life.
Yeah.
I thought, and this is like an unprocessed thought, so this might sound absolutely crazy, but I want to hear y'all's thoughts. When it says, not that we be unclothed, but further clothed, I read further clothed, and I don't think of being physically clothed. I think of like the destruction of shame that fell on them in the garden, where they ran behind the plants because they were naked now, and like they suddenly they were walking around like not even thinking about that they were naked, like it wasn't abnormal to walk around naked. But then when the fall happens, there was the shame for some reason that they were naked, and they went to cover themselves. And when I read further clothed, I think further like God like further bringing in and like covering us, but not like with physical clothing, but like hey,
fully with
here's
himself.
sin, here's shame, here's everything, like no more.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Because he's talking about the Holy Spirit being like this down deposit. It's like this guarantee this of what's really coming. So it's like, I'm giving you something that's coming to reside, myself that's coming to reside, but like you're going to be swallowed up in my presence, like to a more full extent, even in my presence, like in the eternal realm, you know, like this is a piece of it, but like the fullness is on its way.
Like the new heaven and the new earth without being tainted by sin and shame and separation.
Yeah.
It is like this body that we have, we are given new bodies in the new heaven and in the new earth. So how much more fully clothed will we be without sin upon it?
Yeah. Because change is hard personally. And then even the potential of being affected by somebody else's pain in the midst of their change is a reality.
Yeah.
So we're all kind of in this experience together where, man, I don't like change all the time. And I don't like this sense that I'm not at fully home, but like how people are dealing with that can be across the board.
Yeah.
And it can be really hard to deal with. And when I was thinking about this conversation, I think the important thing just to process through, like, what does it look like to navigate the realities of change? I think one is just admit that like change is happening. Change is inevitable. And that's what the scripture says. Like there's a season and time for all things, all things. So times and seasons are changing and it's going to happen. It's just a guarantee. It's a promise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just being aware of that.
And I think talking about that, because that's Ecclesiastes 3, I think, you know, it starts off that chapter like that, and then it goes into this list of like, there's a time to dance, there's a time to sit, there's a time to laugh, there's a time to cry, there's a time to, and I think in that it's saying, what it isn't saying is you can only ever laugh.
That's good.
It's like, there's a time to laugh and there's a time to cry.
Really
there is space meant for grief. Don't avoid that.
It's really good.
Like in the search for home, don't think that in your questioning, in your doubt, in your grief, that it doesn't belong.
Yeah.
Like, yes, we are restless because we do long to be like in home with Jesus in like full relationship, in like full, you know, heaven.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, Ecclesiastes, there's a time to cry.
Yeah.
There's a time to laugh. There's a time to mourn, but there's a time to be joyful.
Yeah.
And I think you look at the Psalms, David does an excellent job of expressing all of his emotions. And then I think at the end of almost every Psalm is reminded of what he puts his trust in, and that's God.
Yeah.
And even if he doesn't feel like God is going to be there for him, he says, yet my soul will wait.
Yeah.
It's really good.
That's one thing we were talking about, is that reflection that is within grief, is like you see it with David, is like it's this reflection with God. Like it's like God, like David's just like, you know, however he starts out his psalm, he's like this, but then at the end of it, he's like, but you, you know?
Yes.
And this is what this is what I'm feeling, this is what I'm going through, but you. Yeah. This is who you are. And there's this revelation that comes out of this reflection of this partnership with God. I'm reflecting with God, and then it comes out with the Lord's revelation of himself. That's the fullness of grief. That's what grief is meant to be. Grief isn't meant to be alone. Grief isn't meant to be something that it's not meant to just be crying and not just to be sad and not just to understand what happened, but it's to take it to your Father. And it's to have a revelation about who he really is, because who he really is the fulfillment of all things.
Yeah.
You know,
grief really does drive us, you know,
in
a lot of things. Like it drives you somewhere. Like it's going to move you. You're not going to, you don't want to stay in grief. You want to move out or move somewhere.
Yeah.
And I do think that scripture's what you're talking about, like where David says, like, why are you so downcast, O my soul?
Yeah.
Like he's just like self-reflecting. Like I see that I'm so down. It's like, but when he processes it all the way down through, he says, but I'm going to hope in you. But my great hope is you. In the midst of my grief, my hope is you. And why can he say that? It's literally because the word says that God never changes. So in the midst of my circumstances shifting, like he's recognizing, God, you don't change, even though all this stuff changes, even though I feel like I don't have a home, you are a constant home for me. And what Hebrews says is Jesus is the same yesterday, today, and forever. He will never change either. So we have this great hope in the midst of change, in the midst of pain, issues. I do have a God who's laid out the way for us to understand, and he's not changing at all. And he's showing up for you in those times where you're feeling good, laughing. He's showing up for you when you're feeling times of sadness and grief.
Yeah. God is beautiful. He can handle every emotion to every extreme you could throw at him. Yeah. Like he's not small.
No, he can handle it.
He can handle it.
Yeah. I'm thankful for that.
Amen.
Could I see your Bible real quick?
Yeah.
I don't know why my phone. What was that psalm Psalm 73.
Are
Which
you
one?
downcast, O my soul?
No, from a few weeks ago.
Yes.
Psalm 73.
Yeah.
I want to read this. My brain just thought of it, and I hope this makes sense. But when I thought how to understand this, it seemed to me a wearisome task until I went to the sanctuary of God. I discerned their end. And I think the translation that I read is like, I didn't understand this until I was home with the Lord, until I was in the presence of the Lord. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the bedrock of all of this, is we have to know that we will never understand without his revelation. We will not know how to navigate seasons without him. Because we won't be navigating. We'll just be aimlessly wandering. And we might end up in something else that feels better.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean it's going to be best for us.
Yeah.
That's not navigation, that's wandering.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And that book indicates that no matter if you get to the place where you actually feel safe on this earth, like you're only safe in his presence. So you can be safe always, or really not fully safe at all, because everything's going to be shaky around you, you know, at some point or another. You know?
Yeah. It makes me think of Matthew 7 when Jesus is doing the Sermon on the Mount and talks about how the one guy built his house on the sand and the other guy built his house on the rock, and the winds came and the floods came and the sand one got washed away. And the moral of it is like, he who hears these things and does them is like the man who builds his house on the rock. But I also think, as we're talking about seasons, if your house is built on the rock, it doesn't matter if it's a sunny day. It doesn't matter if it is a rainy day. Yeah. If you're built on the rock, your house isn't moving. Yeah. So I think, Jesus is home. And I think regardless of the circumstances, no matter how joyous they may be or no matter how heartbreaking they may be, I think there's opportunity and invitation for us to build our house on the rock and be like, you know what, despite my circumstances, in the midst of them, like, I'm not ignoring my circumstances, rather I'm bringing them, because I know that with this foundation, it can be handled.
It's exactly what you said. Like, even knowing him comes through experience. Like, you can memorize all those scriptures, but what you just said is like the way that everything's like really built on solid rock is through the experience of knowing. I'm going to put this into practice and I'm going to really know because I've experienced. And I think that's what it's like to grow up as a kid, so like my kids grow up as a baby and they freak out when they don't have a bottle, but they grow an experience of knowing, hey, I don't have to freak out anymore because my meal's on the way. And I think that's exactly what we're talking about, is like, I think the encouragement for me in a lot of this, in navigating change, is that like, man, it's okay to be on a journey with the Lord and experience him. The scripture says that he's going to bring to completion every good work that he's got happening in your life. Like, he's gonna make that complete, and he's walking you on a journey, even if you don't understand it. Like, he's like, I got you, man. Mm-hmm. Like, I got you in sadness. I got you in joy. I'm not leaving you. And I don't know, this conversation is really beneficial, and it's a blessing to me because I realize, like, it's all good, man. Like, it's all good.
It is.
I'm thankful to sit here with y'all. Every conversation, I feel like I say that with y'all, man, because I'm like, man, it's just such a good reminder. It's like, I can really get out of whack in this thought.
I think another thing that was a game changer for me was coming to a place where I just realized the significance of each season. Like, each season, no matter how terrible it is or how good it is, has its significance, and it is required for the next season. Mm-hmm. It's like the physical seasons. You need winter to get the flowers of spring, and you need spring to get to summer. You need summer, and you need fall. The beauty of fall, but it's literally the leaves are dying. You need that to get into winter, and you need each one for the next season, because that's how the earth is ran. That's just what's good for the environment. That's what we need. And I think in the same way, I need this season of refinement to go into the harvest. Yeah. I need this season of laboring to go into the harvest, and I think each season has its purpose, and that right there, understanding that, I believed lies that this season is pointless. I'm going through this, and there's no reason for me to go through this. Yeah. It was almost like a victim mindset, like, why am I going through this? There's no reason for this. Yeah. There is.
Yeah.
Like, that's the enemy speaking lies against you. Like, there is a reason you're going through what you're going through.
And this isn't the end.
And it's not the end.
It's okay. It's going to be okay.
And I also think there's, dude, one thing I heard another podcast talk about this actually, but it was like, they mentioned something about one of our favorite things to say in Christianese is a season of waiting. I'm in a season of waiting. Yeah. Usually people are talking about relationships, but I just think
I want to break up with you because I'm in a season of waiting. I don't need to be with you.
But
God told me to break up with you.
We're all in a season of waiting. Yes. We're all in a season of waiting for his return.
Right. That's right.
Which it's these huge ultimate perspectives that are foundational to get to the mundane moments, to get to these little things. Because if we really live in that eternal mindset of like, I'm waiting on Jesus to come back, I'm not going to sit here and say, I'm in a season of waiting for 2 years.
Yeah.
And I just think it really takes things to like the right perspective.
Yeah.
And it releases our control and our human pea-sized brains perspective on things.
Yeah.
And it takes us to this place of like, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I know that God says he is who he is in his word, and I trust that.
We can go with him.
And we can go with him.
Freedom.
We can go with Dad.
Heck yeah.
Let it rip.
Let it rip.
And I think in the waiting, I am a very present person, which is great. I love that the Lord made me that way because it's really easy to live through life because I get to see the beauty of every moment, which is sweet. Now, of course. Yeah. Yeah. Of course, there's unhealthy like sides to it in the same way. Like you can be very future minded and that can be incredibly unhealthy or it can be incredibly beneficial as we've discussed. But because but just the beauty of being in the present, like guys, the only time you get to live is right now.
Yeah.
Sorry. Like you don't get to live 10 minutes from now. You don't get to live in the past. Like you don't get to sit 3 weeks ago. You have to live today. So a question is always like, how are you choosing to live? You know, I get the privilege of living in this moment with the two of you and having conversation about Jesus, which is awesome. And then like the next moment that I live out, like I have an idea of what I'll be doing after this, but ultimately it's the Lord's, and I could be driving somewhere and just sit in the beauty of that.
Yeah.
Like it's amazing.
I think that's a good invitation though, to be transformed by the renewing the way that you think. Like you think about it differently, but a lot of people think about life 3 years ago, 30 years ago in what happened. And you said like, we can't live. Our mindset often lives out there in that experience that we got stuck in, that we're still contemplating, and we can't go back and change it. But that's all we think about. And so instead of being able to be present, we're thinking about what should happen, could happen, even though we have no power to go back there and do anything about it. And so the invitation really is like, we have this invitation to be absolutely transformed today and renew our minds. Like we can come back to the present right now. Let's just do, I mean, I can't go back there. Like, let that just sink in. I can't go back. I can't do anything about that. And I'm still here.
Yeah.
Therefore, there is a big reason and a purpose for you right here, right now. What can you do right now? Do you need to go make right with people back then? Like that may be something to do right now.
Yeah.
And then you've got a brand new future ahead. Just start doing right now what you said. And then it begins to dig that foundation of a house that doesn't move. But like go back in here and say, what can I do right now? Not what I should have done, could have done. What can I do right now? Let's be present. Right here, right now.
And I think there's a balance like we were talking about before we started filming, just this pendulum of life, right? And I think you can be someone who tends to reflect a lot. And I've been that person. Like I remember when I was a freshman in high school, the seniors graduated and they were awesome. And then I had to be a sophomore, but I was just so nostalgic of the fact that I was like, oh, but like freshman year was awesome. And I would do anything to go back to that. And if we neglect the past, that's dangerous, because look at the benefit of history, right? Like, this is why the Israelites had this whole thing, because God was like, hey, like, remember what I've done for you. Remember what not to do. Like, look at how your decisions led to this or that. Like, remembering is so important. Do this in remembrance of me. There is a necessity and a wisdom in remembering. However, like, it's supposed to affect you now. So in your remembrance, how are you going to let that transform you for the better today?
Yeah.
And then you can also get caught up in the present and avoid the future and be like, oh, like, I don't need to figure out what I'm doing next week because I am not there yet. And I'm very guilty of that perspective, where I'm like, oh, I don't need to figure out what I need to do with my life because I might not get there. And I think for me, the Lord and I have been having this conversation recently of him saying, Sarah, I love that you are so present minded, but there is responsibility and stewardship needed in looking to the future, which has been really convicting and has led to so many changes, which is great. But not easy. Not easy
right
for
in the middle of
me.
it.
Yeah, literally.
It's good.
And then in the same way, you can be this person who looks to the future, and that's so good because you need to, without vision, people perish. And so you need the future in mind. You need to have that, your sight set ahead, right? If we don't have that hope for the future, there's so much reason to kind of flounder around in today. But again, on the unhealthy side, like, you can never be in the future. The future eventually you can come to, but then it just becomes the present.
That's why I think it's so, as we kind of just like full circle, like maybe really one of the encouragements is we're all dealing with change at certain levels.
Yeah.
And we are invited into this journey one with another to navigate change together. And every one of us navigates it so differently sitting right here. We all deal with it differently. And how cool is it to have a friend who's going to be more present? And how cool is it to have a friend who's going to be like, all right, let's let it rip and like do something brand new right now. And the melding and the meshing of those things. And then when you're dealing with issues of change and you're dealing with different issues of change, like, we can step in and like be on the journey one with another. I just think that's such a gift from God. And he understands the groaning, and he encourages us to like, hey, don't do it by yourself.
Yeah.
Like, get in with people who are going to go on a journey with you, who understand that change is inevitable, but I'm not going to change, and I'm here with you. Yeah. So in the likeness of who my creator is, that's who I'm being formed into. So in the midst of your change or your difficulty of change, I'm going to step alongside you and be like, hey, just in the same way my dad doesn't change for me, I'm not changing for you when times get tough. And then Jesus said, bear one another's burdens, fulfill the law of Christ. So in the midst of your change, our invitation is, why don't we be people in the midst of change to be somebody who's not going to change? You know what I mean? Like, I'm not changing on you. I'm here for you, no matter what. Like, that's a wild, beautiful call of love that only comes from God.
Yeah. Change is universal. Everyone is experiencing it. So don't think that your change demands isolation.
Yeah. It's really important.
No.
We all need it.
Yeah. We need each other.
We all experience it, so we need each other.
That's it. It's a joy.
It was. It is.
It's a joy.
It is a joy.
It's a joy.
It's so sweet.
I thank Bethany for being vulnerable and just asking this question.
Yeah, that's important.
Because I think that's a good starting point, and I think Bethany lead by example in that, just being vulnerable and asking questions and not living in fear. And I think that's something that we, like we've said, we've all struggled with.
Yeah,
we've all gone through.
Understand.
Still are going through.
Yeah,
Get it. Yeah, and shout out Bethany. Bethany's a joy. If you haven't met her,
whoop whoop.
Love.
Bring her around. She's a good laugh.
She has a great
laugh.
Well. Yeah, she does.
So.
And she just, if we're bragging on Bethany, she's one of the most disciplined people I know.
Bethany is.
She's
she brings her meal prep here when we hang out here.
Really?
Yeah.
That's discipline.
Wow. Goes to the gym and like not just meal preps, but like eats healthy, like sticks to her regimen. Like,
way to go.
She got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Y'all, this is a joy. Sarah, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Thanks, guys.
It's a blessing.
Yeah, it was a blessing. y'all keep sending requests and we want to talk about them.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks y'all for watching. Let us know what you think. We'll see y'all soon. Peace.
Go in peace.
That was way better.
Yeah.
Thanks. Look.